It's like so funny to me seeing the backlash towards like Mundi being in there and people talking about how his original birthday and all this stuff. And I have been bitching about this stuff for a very fucking long time.
But
a very long time.
It's different with this. It's different.
What's different about it?
This is like directly impacting the prequels.
Yeah.
Right, but most people don't pay attention to the things that you've been bitching about because that's a small segment of the fan. This is something that's prominent on screen. So, of course, it's going to get boosted and highlighted more because 99% of all Star Wars fans were aware of this issue.
Well, there was nothing in the first 6 movies or Clone Wars or anything that stated his age. This is the same thing we've been talking about forever. They had so much lore built out about these characters, even with things that specifically went along, whether it was trading cards or whether it was insider, like Star Wars insider guides, all these things to develop the lore around all these characters that, guess what? In 2014, they gave them free reign to change up anything they fucking wanted whenever they decided to do it. They decided to do it now, just like they've been doing for literally years and years and years. And I've been bitching about it for a long fucking time. Welcome to the club. When you decide to do these things, when you decide to cherry pick these stories, when you decide to rewrite things just to fit whatever bullshit you want to do at the time, it degrades the canon. It becomes a massive problem. And I'm glad people are finally fucking waking up to things like this. Yeah, I think it's been happening for a long time. You might not have noticed it. You might have been too ignorant about some of these things to know that that was going on, but it has been going on for a long time. George Lucas himself, I think, made mistakes doing this thing as well when he decided to be very cavalier about who he decided to maybe bring back to life or things like this.
But I also think that it's not so much about a contradiction or an issue as much as it's about how horrible this show is overall. So then you're just going to be really focused on any mistakes. If the show's good, people are going to be like, yeah, that's a fuck up. But the show is so horrible. So that's just going to add to it. It's like anything else.
I don't think that way, right? If you fucking decide to change something like that, even if the product ends up being good, I think that it is detrimental and it leads to that type of attitude towards everything. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I also... And again, I don't. The problem is just George in this situation. So I mean, everybody knows I love George Lucas, as you do. And he never fully established what canon was. Like, there's like some people tell you that the EU was always canon. Then there's people that worked with George that says George never said it was canon. George always said it was not canon.
Well, George Lucas has never uttered the words canon in his life.
Well, I understand that, but you know what I'm talking about. And
100%.
Yeah.
At Lucasfilm, the truth is it's a complicated answer. There was a hierarchy of canon, right? Anything that was in the original movies, right? Boom. The top tier, that is canon, unchangeable, unless George wants to change his mind to special edition or something like that. And then for a very long time, right down below it was novels, comic books, all these things. Now, certainly at any point in time, if George, say, wanted to make the prequels or wanted to do something, you know, he could pull from that. He could tweak it. He could do things like that. And as soon as a change to that happened, well, that no longer, right? You had to revert to the hierarchy of canon. So you had to revert to whatever is shown us in the movies. TCW came in, didn't fall between either of those. So they established a secondary level right below the original 6 movies for TCW, because some things they did didn't fit into the movies and some things they did didn't fit in the expanded universe. The truth is that George, even though he signed off on storylines, even though he approved or disapproved things that they could do, he was never beholden to that. And if he thought he wanted to do something else, he would always change his mind.
Right.
And that's the reality. And it's a complicated thing. There's no other type of fucking IP or stories that we have where you have these different delineated levels of canon. And even down below, 99% of, you know, expanded universe comics and books, you had different levels, because then you had also the canon. I say canon, but what you're supposed to do in video games, like usually the light side ending for all these characters, that was also at that same level of canon. Then below that, you had alternate endings to video games. You had Infinity's comic books, like what if Luke Skywalker missed blowing up the Death Star, like stories like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've never seen anything that had a built out, established level of continuity the way Star Wars did. So it's a complicated answer to what you'd think would be a simple question.
And that's my whole thing about it, is that it's been happening for years, but it's been happening for years because that's how George designed all of this, and it's even him. He's contradicted himself more times than we can count. And so that's why this whole thing has always been so fucking complicated along the way. But when you're dealing with something that literally goes directly against something in the prequels, which is the official canon of canons, that's where it gets highlighted on such a massive level that, of course, there's a lot more people that are going to be aware of this. So
your boy Dave, not your boy Dave, but your boy in general, signed off on this.
Well, of course he did. He signed off.
Even though the writer deleted a tweet about that, Dave Filoni signed off on this.